Live from Paradise Studios in Massapequa, New York, it's Unger the Radar, starring Randy Unger. Brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Tonight's film reviews with Randy are The Nun, Jean, and Nellie, with special guest film critics Erica A., Nick Commando, and CJ Oakland. Tonight, Randy will be interviewing actress Samantha Mathis of the new horror thriller Boarding School. Now, here he is, Randy Unger.
Hey guys, welcome to Unger the Radar. I'm your host, Randy Unger, and here we have another wonderful panel of guest film critics, Erica A.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course, we've been there since the beginning, I think.
Yes, 3 studios ago or something.
3 studios, and here we are again at Strong Island. This is great. CJ Oakland, hello, welcome back.
Hello.
Second week in a row.
Yep.
How do you feel?
Like I shouldn't do 2 weeks in a row.
Why?
I need some recharge time.
Okay, noted. And Nick Commando, not the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Never.
Have you even seen that one?
Yes.
Oh,
My
he
11th
has
grade
to.
math teacher. I actually have a story about that movie. If we ever have time for it. It's actually
We'll have time later.
a pretty decent story.
I love it. So guys, we've got 3 movies today. Very weird movies, I'd say.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure, if you want to
grumble. All right, so
Randall.
2 of them are indies. 1 is a bigger budget. I like to mix it up a little bit. So let's get the painful stuff out of the way first, shall we? We've got Jean. It's a dull indie drama about a young girl who has to take care of her eccentric grandparents, and she goes on basically a very strange, dreamlike quest of self-discovery. And yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I don't know. It was okay. Erica, thoughts?
Okay. I guess I'll start with the fact that I'll say I didn't hate it as much once I sat through the other movies on this agenda. Starting off, I thought, oh God, what is this thing? Oh, how long is it going to go on?
Only an hour and 11 minutes.
It has this long wilderness redundancy, and I don't think it makes sense the way the cameras are shot. It keeps switching from night and day.
Yeah.
You can clearly see it was shot at different times of the day, yet it's the same scene. It
Right.
keeps going back from like daylight to nighttime. And I actually think the movie could have done much better if it had a little more plot about the actual teen angst in those other characters.
Okay.
The girl and the boy, they were the redeeming characters for me, while the rest of the movie just,
Meandered.
I was going to say prolonged, but sure.
I did like some of the shots. I did like the score was actually pretty decent. Like I think the music was the best aspect of the movie. But CJ, what did you think?
This movie, I can best describe it as what it feels like going insane is like. I was watching this film, and I just got more and more bewildered as it went on. Like, she was saying, like, the camera stuff made no sense, but I'm like, it's a lower budget thing.
Yeah.
You have
But
to
I
shoot
just-
when you're able to, so it's
But
like...
I would have rather each scene was shot
Yeah.
at that time of the day, that the shooting schedule actually was...
Yeah, so that
was at that
definitely would
time
have
of the
been
day.
a better thing, but it's like, if it was just about, like, camera quality or, like, acting ability, I would understand that.
Yeah.
But the movie, for the first 25 minutes, is just her wandering in the desert, and there's nothing of consequence. They keep, like, renting an animal, like they rent, like, scorpions or a tarantula, and having her meet it, but, like, there's no drama or sense of stakes.
Did you
an
want them all
animal.
to talk?
Yeah. No, I'm just like, okay, it's like, oh, she's like, oh, there's a scorpion. I'm scared of the scorpion. I'll keep walking now. Oh, there's a wolf. I'm scared of the wolf. I'll keep walking now.
Rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake. And it's like, at the 25-minute mark, it then suddenly shifts to 3 days earlier. And I'm like, what? And then they're like, oh, let's introduce who this girl is. And
Yeah.
introduce the grandparents and these other kids. And I'm like, are you starting the movie now?
Yeah. Basically.
After 25 minutes.
But that didn't save the movie.
Not at all.
No, it just made it worse. It's like every scene makes no sense at all, and I just
Yeah.
got more and more frustrated.
Well,
the
maybe
more
that
I
was the
watched it.
point. They wanted to make it kind of like artistic,
No,
dreamlike.
it's not even in an artistic way of a dream thing. It's just, I don't think there was a script. I feel like they shot some stuff and then kept going back and shooting more stuff and just threw more in. Like,
Right.
I don't think anyone watched this film one way through to make sure, like, to see how it is, because no one could look at this movie and go, good enough.
I don't know how it got funded, really.
I'm pretty sure it's just some people got money together and funded it. And I always try to be the nice one on movies. Like, every time people rip movies apart, I'm like, people made this, they can learn from it. But with this one, I'm truly just like, as a viewer, I'm offended that you had me watch this. Where just there's nothing that makes sense.
I'm
there's
sorry,
no
CJ,
character
I feel
development. I'm
bad.
like, what's the point of it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Wait.
It was thrown my way. I saw it. I thought it'd be interesting. It seemed interesting. And actually, the selling point for me, Lee Majors. That's it.
I saw in the credits, voice of Lee Majors. So I'm like, maybe it's the voice of the grandpa. And it's like,
Right.
we're looking for the grandpa, and like, he does voiceover, and like, will she find him? Will she not? I'm like, there could be something interesting if it's done really low budget.
Yeah.
And instead, Lee Majors is the voice of a rock that the senile grandpa speaks to for one scene.
The stone of wisdom. The stone of wisdom. So, yeah.
And then the
he's barely
grandpa
in it.
keeps talking to the rock, except the rock doesn't talk anymore. He just hears the rock talking to himself. So why did Lee Majors voice one scene?
Nick, thoughts? Save us.
Randall,
Oy.
Randall, this week's crop of movies proved to me that we're not friends.
No, hey.
Um,
I'm a fan of all movies. It's a wide spectrum.
this movie felt like the ending to a movie that wasn't ending. You know, like when you watch a very melodramatic movie and it has that really long, prolonged ending where like every scene you're like, okay, this is where the credits roll, or this is where the credits roll, or oh, credits, no, it's still, what are we, and then 3 days earlier, 25 minutes in, I don't mean to repeat everything that CJ just said, but what the bleep, man? Like,
I know.
It
had promise, though.
It felt like a Grizzly Adams retirement. Like, it felt like a bunch of Alzheimer's researchers were watching Grizzly Adams out living his life.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden they cut to a girl walking around to a dog, with a dog. And then they went to and then she's laying there. I yelled at this movie a lot. And the tarantula, it's just, she's sleeping. And the tarantula's like, la 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 la. And I'm like, what are you doing? And the dog's like, I got a stick. And I'm like, why? Your friggin' vest says service dog on it, and you're playing with a friggin' log.
Yeah.
And then you just cuts to girl screams and then her just brushing herself off, but there's no tarantula visible.
Yeah.
A clearly shot at a different time of day with the tarantula
And then
crawling
you just
away.
see the tarantula
and then her
crawling.
like, it's a good thing the
And
dog
it's
saved
like-
me. He was playing with a stick.
I
You were
thought he was
asleep.
at least going to do something with the stick. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, swing
Like,
the
I thought
stick.
he was going to come
Maybe
over and like
he
brush
throws
it off.
the
And I'm
stick
like,
at her.
how did the dog do that? But I would be okay with
Maybe
it.
he
would be
threw
okay.
the stick at her,
mean-
it wakes the girl up, and then the tarantula runs away, and the girl's none the wiser.
Yes.
But no, and then you have the two friends, the George guy, and
Yes.
apparently his sister, who had the widest nose I've ever seen in my life. And she's like, I thought they were all friends.
Yeah.
Apparently the blonde girl didn't like her, which I didn't understand.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I really didn't get that vibe. I thought they were just quoting Cinderella.
just became friends
Yeah, and then they were all of a sudden like, hey, we're friends now.
I
Here's
was
some
once a
hair
bully,
oil.
now I'm not a bully.
I'm not putting any of this on them as actors, like because they're very young actors, but it's just the script. The script makes no sense whatsoever.
And I think, the director, Sean Welling, I think he took great pride in some of those shots. Because
I mean, the
it's
shots
a beautiful
are
movie.
nicely
I also
beautiful
could've-
done.
shots.
It's just they don't flow. There's no
Yeah.
congruent. There's no time comparison.
That's
It's
why I
just
think
like
there's
it's
some
almost.
promise
It's like,
here.
oh, it's going to get dark soon. The sun's rising.
I
Now it's
also
going to get
could've-
dark soon.
Right.
I
Why
also
is
could have
this
done
character-
without those extreme close-ups of the girl, where she's just like staring into the camera, and
the
you're like,
fisheye
what
lens.
is going to happen right now?
Oh, that's the curved
Yeah.
ground.
Yes.
I like that. I was like, how did they do that?
That was
Well,
interesting.
you put it
that was
different
interesting.
lens.
It was
I
good.
enjoyed that. Like it was a pretty decently shot movie,
Right.
but still, I
If you want
just
to
sat
make
there
a
waiting
movie
for
and you
something
have
to
some
happen.
talent, do yourself a favor and just spend a little money to hire a writer, like anyone with some kind of actual writing experience,
Like
to
CJ.
look at your film
Yeah.
and just be like,
Well, no, that's
hey,
an editor.
this doesn't make any sense. Maybe if you move some things, it'll work.
Right.
But just someone who understands what story structure is or characters are. Because this movie had none of that.
So
and
you
if
don't-
it did, it could have been better.
You didn't think it was like a straight up art film, which is like, it doesn't really
No,
have a point.
No.
It's just
From the way
beautiful.
I'm watching this isn't a film where it's like, it's a thing where like things don't make sense and they just do it.
Yeah.
It's someone who's trying to make a film but doesn't understand like how to set up a scene. Like
Right.
in the desert, literally every single time she encounters an animal, it's the exact same thing where she meets it,
Mm-hmm.
she looks kind of scared or alarmed, but then she just keeps walking and nothing happens.
Right.
There's no, like, they want it to be a girl going off and discovering herself as she searches for her grandpa.
Yeah, it was messy.
But she doesn't learn anything. There's
Right.
no lesson. There's nothing she overcomes.
Right.
She just says in narration, I was scared of of nature, but I'm not anymore.
There are no protagonists, no
Yeah.
one changes, there's
There's
no character arc.
conflict or drama except
Yeah.
looking for the grandpa, but he's just kind of wandering off doing his own thing because he's
Yeah,
senile.
he's not changing.
And
he's
that's
just,
the more interesting part, but you don't go into it. It's just,
Well, I think
there's nothing
it was
of
interesting that the
substance.
scene in the bar where he's kind of hitting on that younger girl, but
Yeah, that guy, that
Interesting.
actor
That
guy that got
infuriated
mad,
me
that
the
was
most.
horrid.
That
you didn't like the
scene.
fact that
Oh
they
my
show the old
God.
guy and then they show him as a younger self.
Yeah, I'm fine with
they
that.
didn't
That they
do-
show him as a younger self,
Right.
and he gets in a fight with the younger guy, where like the young guy is arguing at this old guy.
Yeah.
But the old guy thinks he's young, so he's getting back at him, and he thinks his friends are behind him.
But
So
then
the
how
young
did
guy
he
and his
ever
friends
fall?
punch him, knock him over, and then the old guy's imaginary friends beat them up.
Yeah.
What? It makes no sense.
the
This
problem-
movie doesn't set up if it's a dream or not, or if anything's
Yeah.
real. If it's set up clearly, if it's real or not, I could be with it. But you can't go like, this is about the young girl. No, it's about this guy with his ghost friends beating up
Yeah.
people in a bar, and everyone's cool with it.
And then the young girl arrives, and it's like, wait, is this now or is this before?
right. Confusing.
Even starting? Are we still in the 3 days earlier? Has she been in the woods for 3
Has
days?
it been 3 days? It feels
Yes.
like 3 days.
It does, but
like
at the
3
same time,
weeks.
it's like, wait, am I supposed to believe it's now not 3 days?
Yeah.
The problem with that scene
Yes.
that CJ
Oh,
was referring
once-
to is,
okay.
is mind-numbingly simple. Just cut to the old man beating them up.
Uh-huh.
Just cut to the old man fighting
just
them,
show what's actually
holding
happening.
his own
Yeah.
and beating him up. They spent too much time in the whole hallucination thing with his condition because he
Right.
clearly had dementia or
Right.
Alzheimer's or something. They spent too much time in that scene focusing on how he thought he was young. Cut to the scene where he's whooping the young guy's butt.
Yeah, either an
that
old
would have
guy
been
somehow
great. I would be
beating up
like,
the
yeah,
old guy
Grizzly
beating up the young-
Adams.
Yeah.
Either him somehow beating up 3 people, or show how he thinks him and his friends are winning this fight because they're the wolf
show
pack that are
two
gonna
guys
win. And then show just 2 guys beat up this
Yeah,
old guy,
show, like,
and then
two
he
guys
stumbles
joined
out
in.
bleeding, and he's just like, "Oh, we're having a good time, right, wolf pack?" Woo! Like
he's alone.
That would be fine. But you can't have the imaginary characters interact with real characters to help this person,
Right.
And
then
have
show
that
that
actually
there's
when
nothing
you
happening. Like
but
everyone's
no,
fine with it.
It's more have them in the imaginary world, and then we go back to the real world afterwards, and everything that happened in the imaginary world seems to have somehow taken place in some shape
No.
or form that we never saw.
This movie feels like someone watched one of those French art films and
Yeah.
thought, I can do this, but doesn't understand what was good about those. He's just like, I'm just going to have weird things happen.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
commend,
then
only
just
knows
throw it
one
together,
French
and then it just
word.
kind of ends.
I commend his motivation
Yeah,
to
I'm
make
fine
the movie.
with anyone making a
don't.
movie, but I just feel like there wasn't enough care put into it of like, what's the story you want to tell? I feel like he's just like, girl going off to find the grandpa, they shot it. It's like, well, I ran out of ideas. Let me make it about this, shoot this part. And then it's like, well, I got to finish it. Let me just shoot this and it's over.
It's ridiculous.
It felt like, at the end, it almost felt like they were trying to tell like a Cinderella story, but they took out everything that made Cinderella interesting.
And they just like ran.
That's
half
what
an
it
hour
felt
in, they
like.
suddenly established that she really connects to Cinderella.
Yeah.
And she keeps talking about herself like Cinderella. And then the bullies know to make fun of her in terms of Cinderella by like calling her Cinderella, making fun of her. And then it ends with her getting glass shoes like it's Cinderella. So it's
Right.
like, but you can't set that up as a character trait more than half an hour into the movie and we're halfway through.
Right.
You can't just do that. It doesn't make
Also,
any sense.
an hour and 13 minutes.
11. An hour and 11.
My said an hour and 13.
Okay.
But how do you make a movie that's an hour and 13 minutes, have all that stuff in it, and nothing happens?
yeah. I
Like,
this will be a
it just-
breeze. This will
it-
be fine.
Like, and like and you said, I commend them for making the movie, and I said I don't. I really don't, because any of us could have gone out and done that.
yeah.
We could have made a movie exactly like that
Oh,
really
sure.
made no sense, didn't really seem to have a plot. I mean, we could have found an old man and told him to wander around the forest and
Pay
talk
him in
to a
crackers,
rock.
yeah.
I could have told my dad to do that.
Right.
He would have
Pay
been
him
like,
and
"All
then
right,
gay."
sure." It just, and I'm not. I don't mean to like rip filmmakers, but like when you make something like that, it's like,
Yeah.
did you really have to do that? It's like, why? What was
Right.
the end game there?
Yeah. There's no real point to
Yeah,
this
it
movie.
was just like, okay, old girl, little girl wanders through the forest.
Mm-hmm.
I thought at the beginning her grandfather was dead. Because he was
I get
walking
that
around in
feel.
snow,
Kind of like a
and she
ghost?
was
Yeah.
walking around
Okay.
in not snow.
Yeah.
But then she wasn't snow.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, and then when the dog gets bitten, she's in the snow.
Yeah.
I thought that was like he was wandering around because he was dead, and she was trying to find him because she still couldn't accept the fact that he was dead, and they were going to
it
do
would have been
that.
something like that, which would have been interesting.
Right.
'Cause
And,
I've
that
read-
grandmother was
Yeah.
way too young to be a grandmother.
Yeah.
I don't care
No.
what you say. That guy looked like he was 70. She
was
looked
like
like she was
40.
45.
Right.
All right? I don't care what you say. There's no way those two are grandparents unless she's a gold digger.
I tried to
Diabetes
let that
really
go, but I
preserved her
couldn't.
well.
The what?
The diabetes really preserved her
Yeah,
well.
and they're
Say.
sitting in the wheelchair thing.
Oh God.
Like, I've read a lot of like young adult books or like movies that this emulates, and there's ways you could have done it well if you thought, well, what's the story I want to tell, what's the message, and make a movie around that.
Yeah.
I feel like he got an idea and made it without knowing like what story he wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Like for the next film, like he had some interesting shots. There could be good talent there. For your next thing, just think up a story. Just think
Yeah.
up the idea you want, what message you want to convey, and work on
This
it.
was a good test.
Because I feel like this was a filmmaker shooting random stuff, throwing it all
Yeah.
together, and then trying to figure out the meaning of it, which
Yeah.
could almost work better as what this movie was trying to go for.
Right.
And
right.
be less melodramatic. It felt very over-the-top melodramatic to
The
me.
music
and it
especially,
didn't-
which I
Well,
love.
the music was cool.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
was
even have a
good 'cause
problem
he
with
didn't
the
make
music.
the music. It's like the
the
free to get
music-
music you can get
the
online.
music
The
kind
plugin.
of-
That's why it's the best part.
The music kind of guided me to how I was supposed to feel
Right.
based on the
Yeah.
scene.
It's
It was
emotionally
like,
manipulative.
oh, this is sad violin, so I'm supposed to not be
If you take
happy
the
with
music
what's
out, I'd have
happening
no
right
idea
now.
what I'm supposed to
yeah,
feel.
Well,
yeah,
then you
like,
just have the dead sound of her wandering.
Totally unwatchable.
Yeah.
There are no
Yes.
music in it.
yeah, and
So guys, Erica, final thoughts on Gene?
Skip it.
Skip it. Okay.
I mean, other people have said they've seen it, other reviewers, other people, and it's like,
Yeah.
what did you think? And I'm like,
Yeah.
you can skip it. It's just, it's out there. It has promise, but it fails on every single level.
Instantly forgettable.
Yeah, it's
sadly.
just a long student film, which I want to see more of what he does if he figures out
Yeah.
what kind of movie he wants to make.
Right.
If he makes another movie, I will give him the benefit of the doubt and I'll check it out
Mm-hmm.
because like it's someone with passion to shoot something, but not enough to like focus on making a well-crafted movie, and that's what you need
Right.
to do. I feel like that's what it didn't have. It's a movie with some talent and dedication, but no passion. Like I couldn't tell what he wanted to show with this movie.
I'm really
what he was
hoping
passionate about.
it goes just goes up from here. I'm hoping.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Real-
We're seeing the start where we're bashing him,
Yeah.
but he can turn it around and
Yeah.
win us over.
was this his first film?
I'm not sure. It feels like it is. It's
Who
maybe
was the
one
director?
of his. Sean Welling.
Okay.
Yeah. So it might be one of his first. I think he's done a lot of shorts.
So this was his
Yeah,
first
this
short
feels like
film.
it's
might
that
be
was
his-
a
better as
little
random
longer.
shorts put
It
together.
would be yeah. That's why it's so short in the beginning.
If you release this in like 5 or 10 minute chunks, I could understand the end game.
like a series.
But if you put it all together and you watch it all in one fell swoop, you're like, what is happening? My head hurts.
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah.
And we're gonna segue into our next painful movie. Not
Which
as
one?
painful. Nelly, the French language film about a sex worker / novelist based on the real life artist Nelly Arcan. Basically, her life goes from bad to worse. There's violence, there's nudity, overall psychological weirdness going on. Nick, let's start with you. What'd you think of this one?
So basically, because I didn't watch the movie, full
Okay.
disclosure. Basically, she's a sex worker, so she said it was getting hot in wherever she was, and she wanted to take all her clothes off. Right?
Yep.
That's the first Nelly reference.
Good.
Somebody go to somebody take over. 'Cause I
All
gotta
right,
think of another
sorry.
one.
Did you just Google a bunch of
Little-
Nelly music instead
Yes.
of actually watching this movie?
Yes,
and
I
I
did.
commend you
Yes,
for
I did.
that effort.
I enjoy Nelly. I listen to him over and over again.
I love Nelly too. I've seen him once in concert without the Band-Aid.
You know what?
Without the Band-Aid, wow.
We're gonna move over to Erica.
Yeah.
Oh,
As-
great. Okay. I hated the movie most of the three.
Oh, really? This
Yes.
is your least favorite? Okay.
I felt almost like it was this far away from being porn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There was a lot of nudity. In
It
there.
was over the top nudity. It was just like, and I didn't understand the different people. Was they all supposed to be her, or were they separate
Yeah.
stories? And what did they have to
Right.
do with each other? And why did they all need to have sex constantly?
never
One was a
clarified.
hooker.
Is it the
one
same
was a sex addict.
person?
One was
Here's
the girl
my
who was
understanding.
personality?
angry.
Here's my understanding of it:
Yeah.
is that Nelly Arcan, as a writer, was that she was a sex worker who then wrote stuff that's kind of based on like her experiences, but as fictional works.
But it's
And
never
people kept
clarified
asking, like,
if these are
yeah.
her characters that the book is about.
That's the thing, is like she keeps not saying in interviews like if it's real or not. Like people don't know if she's actually writing about what's real. So I think the director for the movie wanted to make it where she's playing multiple characters, or we don't know if they're all real or if none of them are real. And it really frustrated and infuriated me. I get what they were going for, but I felt like you needed at least something concrete to hold us to it. Because at first I thought this is her in different points of her life, although it doesn't really make any sense. But then when like as things go on, it's
ambiguous.
Just, are they fictional?
Right.
Are they real? And it's like you don't know, but it's also that's the problem with the film, is that like it could be interesting to explore if you made it more clear up front.
Yeah.
But it's just hard for us to know, like, which one are we rooting for? Because I don't like any of them.
Like, towards the middle, I was like, are these, like, the same person?
Yeah, when she said...
More than
just
just the
change her hair
middle. A
color?
few minutes, about 20 minutes in, it's like, wait a second, so these are different people. Are they all going to at least meet up? Are they going to cross paths at some point? What do they have to do with each other? What does the little girl have to do? This is definitely
is this like a French
an
thing?
earlier
Like
time.
a French way of filmmaking?
I don't think so.
Well, it's French-Canadian,
Yeah.
so it shouldn't be compared to French. It should be more of a Canadian thing.
The biggest thing that I got was when she was talking to the psychologist and was basically describing how she sees herself outside her body, where she sees
comes
her
on
people,
to the psychiatrist,
but she's not. A scene earlier than that.
Oh, okay.
And basically, she's describing a dissociative state where someone like you feel like you're not in your own body, and I know a little bit of the psychology behind that, of like that kind of condition.
Okay.
So I thought this is her where she's watching and doesn't know if she's any of these people or like if they're real or not. And there's something you could explore there, but it never definitively says what's going on.
Right.
And it's getting good reviews from other people. It's probably movies that someone who would like this kind of movie would like. But to me, it's about narrative and character progression. That's what really like hooks me into a movie.
Yeah.
And this movie just had separate characters who didn't really seem to have a journey or anything going on. It's just people with different involvements and different sexual things happening to them, and then it just kind of ends.
And it's just not a likable character, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't
Which one?
Both. I don't care about their
'cause it
journey.
There's
seems
like
like there
five
were
different
five-
characters.
Yes.
The two main ones, the novelist and the sex worker.
And then there's the rich person, and then there's the young girl and her friend, and then there's someone else, the group of four.
Yeah, the drug person, and then who she is, like,
and then the
later
drug
they try to say
person.
this is the real her, but there's like 2-3 different versions of the real her. So it's just a very frustrating film to watch where you're trying to figure out what's happening.
Right.
And I think like if they had been more upfront about it.
But
like, to
also
try
I
and
felt
show,
like
like,
it
what
might
it's
have been better if we actually felt like we wanted to care about these characters and the path they were taking.
Yeah, I didn't.
They introduced them where they're too high up. Like they're saying how like, oh, you're the top novelist now. It's like, oh, all the prostitutes hang around. It's like reading reviews. She's the best sex worker, and everyone loves her as a prostitute. She's the best prostitute of prostitutes. And I'm like, you built the character up because I get you want to see them going down. And like that's the character kind of journey you want to go on, but it doesn't make them likable at the start. To just say like this is them at the height of their fame and then going down, it's like, but they're so unlikable at the top.
Yeah.
That why are we rooting for them? Why are we invested?
I know.
And it's supposed to be about a real person, but we don't know if any of them are real. And it's like, I think they're trying to capture the spirit of who the writer was and what her work is, but it's not about her work. There are characters inspired by each of her books, also along with maybe who she was, but it's not really the characters from the books, and it's not really her in real life. So
it's like a weird puzzle.
Yeah,
trying to
who
put
are
it all
we actually
together.
And there were definitely missing pieces, and there were
yeah,
never any
there weren't any clues
overlaps.
or pieces. It's just kind of you're watching the film happen and existing.
Right.
I feel
Like
like
a
there
dream.
weren't clues for you to get
But
onto.
at least
and it
there
just made
weren't
it
points
hard.
where it blurred and it showed
Yeah.
us this is where it's merging in, this is where it's moving. There was no even art to it. It was just, okay, here's a character moving along. Maybe if it was supposed to be about the books, maybe if each book turned the page at some point
I don't
we
know if
saw.
I've read the books. Maybe I'll understand what's happening more. But I also feel like they're not telling the story of the books. They're telling the story of her kind of as the characters, but not living the life of the characters. But maybe they are, and I don't know.
Eric, but why did you hate it? I'm just curious.
Because there was nothing to cling on to. There was there was nothing that I was looking forward to. There was nothing that I thought should happen or nothing that I was surprised about. There was no interest in the characters. And it was also somewhat confusing, and also it was at times just uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, this is what they're turning to. I guess this is what the story is about, but is this her doing this?
Right.
Or is this the book? There was no way to actually know what was going on.
Right.
There
Okay.
was no
Noted,
flow to
noted.
it.
But I'll tell you, we're obviously English speaking. This is a French language film.
Huh?
I don't review a lot of foreign films, but I thought this was an interesting one. Nick, are you big on foreign films?
No, not really.
Right.
Well,
I don't really do well with having to watch, but also read what's
Right.
going on at the bottom. And also, I took a foreign language for a long time and have really no grasp whatsoever on foreign languages.
What did you take?
Italian.
Okay.
English is a very, for lack of a better term, a very dumb language compared to other languages because everything with us is like reversed. Like in Italian where we would say I'm 28 years old, in Italian you have 28 years.
Oh, okay.
So it's like possessive and stuff.
Right, that's
so
Latin.
like that,
Yeah.
and it's also like when I watch it, because we watched that other one, Oh Whatever, and I thought, oh, I hate this movie.
Oh, wait, the one with Josh Hartnett?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Oh
Okay.
Lucy, I think
Oh,
it was,
Lucy,
and I
yeah,
thought,
yeah.
oh God, make this movie stop.
That was a little bit better than this, actually.
It was, certain words were kind of flip flopped,
Yeah.
and it was, sometimes you gotta sift through like, okay, well when they're saying this, they mean this. I have to move this word in my head to have this. Oh wait, what's happening now? And it's,
No.
So I'm not big on foreign films.
Okay. Noted. CJ?
This one, I don't think it's that. It's because it's in a foreign film. Like,
Yeah.
the dialogue didn't move the movie forward, and the action didn't really feel like it was moving the movie forward. It's hard to tell, like, because it's about the character didn't seem to know what she wanted. Like, she's getting praise, but she's not happy with it. She's dissociating. She's not sure who she is, but that makes it hard for us to grasp onto her. That if it's a main character or several main characters where they don't know who they are or what they want to be happy, then it's hard for us watching to really kind of empathize with them and join them.
Okay. Yeah, I can't relate to the character
I
at
feel
all.
like if it was more about make it the one singular writer, like make it about her, but
Yeah.
show like different things where these are the characters, like make it more clear, like someone's going to read the book about this, and so like this kind of thing happening. But then people asking like, well, maybe it's based on real events. Did this really happen to you? And that blurs the line because she's playing the main characters. You could work with something like that, but it was changing so much. I just assumed that it's all the same person.
Yeah.
Because you didn't give me anything to say that maybe they're not until like everyone is trying to commit suicide at once, and I'm like, what's happening? I wasn't sure. It's just-
no spoilers.
It's okay.
it's based on a real person, and you can look up what happened to her in real life, so it's not really a spoiler. Like, I knew that going into the film.
Would you guys research Nellie Arcan now that you've seen the movie?
I'm
like the real Nellie?
interested in her writing,
Yeah.
but it's like the movie didn't give me anything to show like what her writing was like. I think they had pieces of it, and maybe the characters, but it's just I wasn't really sold by the movie.
Right.
Like, I'm more interested in like when I researched her on my own online to see what this movie was trying to say. Like, oh, I'd be interested in reading her books, but I don't know what this movie was kind of about.
Good point. Erica, final thoughts?
Well, I mean, personally, I would say at least the subtitles looked like they were close to what they were saying.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of an understanding of French, so it's like,
Oh,
okay.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, I can do French really badly, Spanish really badly, Cantonese.
And English, not so bad.
I'm quite fluent in English, I'd like to
Okay,
say.
good.
Cantonese, Japanese, not so good at Korean.
You're like C-3PO. It's crazy. No?
No,
Okay.
I'd rather be, I'll get back to you on that. Someone else from some other sci-fi.
Okay.
The official translator.
All right, guys. So let's move on to the fun movie, quote unquote.
No.
No? Not even this one, huh?
No.
Okay. But the
Sure, the
universe,
sarcasm of fun.
but the franchise surrounding it is pretty damn good.
I liked the Conjuring films.
Mm-hmm.
James Wan is a good filmmaker. Like, he knows how to set it up,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't about needing jump scares to be scary. It set up actually good imagery. It had very inventive scares, and it did a good job being
You're
psychological.
talking about the first Conjuring.
Yes, the
Yeah.
first Conjuring was this.
Yeah.
This one, without James Wan, had somewhat interesting characters. Like, it set up the characters to be good. I empathized with them. It had a good location. It had good visuals. And every scare, it started to get good. There were actually creepy images. It started to get me into
James
it.
Wan was involved in this movie in some capacity.
He was a
Yeah,
producer.
he's
That's
a
because
producer on all of
or
these.
He started the first one. He's
Yeah,
producing
he
all of
directed
them.
the first two.
But he's not the
a
director in this one.
Producer
But
on all of them.
The problem is every scare starts off really good to build, and then it just ends with a loud noise, a thing jumps at the camera, and whatever was scary, be it like
Well,
a
isn't
small
that-
child or a nun, is just a Walking Dead zombie snapping at the camera and snarling. And it's so bad, I burst out
Yeah.
laughing several times. Me and Nick saw it together. Like,
It's ridiculous
but-
that this is a prequel to such a great film like The Conjuring.
But
'Cause
the jumping out thing, that's just what horror is in a way, isn't it?
no, because it depends on the setup. Sometimes the jump scare can be good. Like in The Thing that John Carpenter made, there's some moments where you could say it's a jump scare, but it's set up very well. There's
it was the
few
creature
moments.
effects and the psychological aspect of it.
What I'm saying is that there's one scene where, in The Thing, there's a character sitting down reading a book, studying what this alien might be. And there's a moment where you just see him sitting alone by candlelight, and someone walks by, and that's all it could be. But there's a loud music sting that shows you this is something to pay attention to. And it made me jump every time I watch it, because it's not something that's meant to be scary, but it's something that gives you that physical response where it's like a catharsis, where it's like it's building tension, and then this is what's happening now. This movie, it starts to build, and then it's just, okay, we don't know what else to do now, so now it's just a monster going,
yeah, that's all
and that's all it is. Like, it's like a haunted house where it's just something jumps at you. Like, that's what haunted houses are. But horror movies can be so much more, and they're good when there's so much more.
Like the first
Do that
Conjuring.
again.
Oh God!
Every time. Every time.
It's
and
ridiculous.
It made me furious. Because
Yeah.
it's like, you're actually, like, there are some moments I was getting scared. There are some moments that are good and are getting me sucked into it. And then one of them will just suddenly turn and go, "Brah!"
You know what the scariest scene in the movie was? It was actually used in the trailer.
Yeah.
Where the girl priest, the nun,
Yeah.
the good nun is walking down the corridor with the light.
And they have the nun behind her
Behind
that
her.
she's talking to.
Right.
And it's like, hello.
Yeah,
and it's like,
when
that's
that-
good scary.
When that
And then
scene
that
happened, I
happens.
said to CJ, I'm like, oh, the thing from the trailer's gonna
yeah,
happen.
yeah. That was
But
the
it was
scariest
wor-
scene in the movie.
Because it was worse in the movie than the trailer. Like, the trailer was
Well, plenty
scarier
of
because
mov-
all it was just jump and then it cuts to there. Whereas in the movie, when that happens, the nun grabs her, knocks her on the wall, and then it cuts to the nun's face, just going, "Ah!"
Right, with the blood.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so much worse in the movie than it was in the trailer.
I
Like,
know.
how do you make the trailer better? Because
that was the
you
selling
don't show
point.
that.
That was
Well, I have seen too many movies these days where the trailer is the movie. You didn't
Yeah.
need the movie.
I didn't even watch
enjoyed-
trailers at this
I
point.
know, the trailers have gotten a lot worse.
I
It's
just
not
read
Oh no,
the
I was going to say the
synopsis on
trailers have
IMDb
gotten
and
really
that's it.
good that you don't even need the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, just let me watch the trailer. I'm done.
Nick, thoughts on the nun?
Yeah, we're in a fight.
Oh, God.
I don't do horror.
He really doesn't.
I
All
don't.
right, all right,
Okay, I'm
noted.
not. I have a very overactive imagination. Don't like it.
Is this our first horror movie together that we've reviewed?
Yes, because
Yeah.
the last one that you wanted me to watch, I figured out it was horror, and I was like, nope, we're done. And I
Okay,
told you
okay.
that time, Nick doesn't do horror.
Gotcha.
I was nervous this entire movie because I don't like necessarily being startled every 30 minutes or so. You know, if it happens in like Avengers or something, then it's like, oh, yeah, they got me. I should have been paying more attention or something. But I'm sitting there this entire movie and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this. Why are they there? What are you doing? What is going on? That can't be real. Why is this
Are
happening?
you familiar with the other Conjurings?
Yeah, and I didn't see those because
Okay.
no. It was, you know, like CJ just laughing maniacally next to me somehow made me more scared. I don't know how. 'Cause
I can
don't-
be quite
I
scared.
don't know. No, because I don't know if he was like. I still wasn't sure if he was figuring out what was happening or if he was laughing at parts that were scaring me, and then I just felt like an idiot.
No, I'm
So-
sorry. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the movie. Like,
didn't think
me
you
watching
were,
horror
yeah.
stuff. Like, I know good effects. I know good jump scares, and
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
were not. But also, like,
right.
someone who doesn't like horror doesn't like jumping things at you. That's all it was. Was a thing jumping.
This
Yes.
this movie could be best described as bunch of nuns didn't lock the door, let out a demon.
Right, right.
That's literally the whole thing. I was sitting there at the beginning, and CJ can attest to this. I was saying, why didn't you lock the door?
And
you
you
didn't
know
lock
what
the
they
door.
locked the
And the
Why didn't they lock the
supernatural
door?
artifact, the key,
Yeah.
it has to be in the right hands. If it falls in the wrong hands, literally all hell will break loose.
Yeah, like why couldn't they? If they should, this movie didn't have to exist. All they had to do was this,
Yeah.
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 and they walked away,
And
and that's the end of the
just break
movie.
the
Well,
key in
no,
half,
because
and
then
that's
you'd
it.
still
Yeah.
have the other dead nuns that weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
My problem
A
with
collective
this movie.
sigh.
Here's my biggest problem with the movie is like.
You can
One,
s-
I hated the jump scares. Like, I hated
Oh, yeah.
those. Like, they weren't well done, and it ruined the movie. If they had toned it down several degrees, it would have been such a better horror movie because it would have been about the suspense. It would have kept you like on your toes. If you didn't know that every scare was just going to be, well, I'm starting to get invested in this, but something's going to jump out and then all tension's going to be gone. They're just going to whack it with a shovel. And sure enough, a thing jumps at them and scares them, and then they whack it with a shovel and it's over. And I'm like,
or a shotgun.
yeah, like why is it turning into just Walking Dead or like a bad Resident Evil game?
That's what it felt like.
You're ruining what could be a good horror film.
Right.
But the other thing is that the characters don't do anything. Like, they do things,
They
but
pray.
the characters
Yeah.
don't have any kind of character development.
Father Burke just
Like-
rummages around in the forest.
Yeah, like I'm expecting, like when this came in, it's a lot of cliches, but it's like the priest with the troubled past. I'm like, okay, and he can face what's happening, the demon can taunt him with it, and he can overcome it, but he doesn't. They just kind of reference that a thing happens.
Right.
He keeps getting stalked by a kid, and then they kind of just do the thing. Like the nun is like, maybe she had visions as a child. She kind of has psychic powers that she used to help save the priest one time earlier into the film.
She's got visions.
And then nothing comes of it.
Yeah.
And they don't
Well,
reference
no.
it again. And she doesn't.
What comes of it is they point.
Yeah, they don't do anything with it.
She figured
And
it out.
Frenchie is the
whole
best character. When you watch
I
this
did
movie,
like that actor.
Frenchie is the best part of it. Cherish him. He's great.
The actor, Jonas Bloquet, I guess.
Like he's
Belgium.
supposed to be the lovable dumb
Yeah.
character, and he did so good. Like
Yeah.
I would want to watch just a
Well,
horror movie.
He was
him
kind
in
of
it,
like a
because he
goofy
was so much
hero.
fun.
It was like a weird, unlikely goofy hero.
Like when the movie started, I was laughing at it. I was invested in it. Like they had good character moments. The three
Yeah.
of them were great. Like if this was the movie, I'd be fine.
Right.
Except they never advanced as characters. They never did anything as characters. They didn't have anything to overcome. It's just them being stalked by
Frenchie
the nun,
had
who the nun never really tried to kill them. She just kept messing with them.
I just owe that to the
and
acting.
then they just kind of
Yes.
at the end it just ends. And
It's
I'm like,
just, no, it's three really decent actors in a
Yeah,
not
it's-
very decent movie.
yeah, like they don't know what to do with them.
Right,
And
right.
it's so frustrating because
Right.
it's like the resolution is just it's like, oh, they need to be at the church to confront the nun,
Right.
and then they're at the church to confront the nun,
Yeah.
and then that's it. And I'm like, they don't. You know that the nun comes back 30 years later because it's a prequel.
Yeah.
So how is your setup that okay, they need to defeat the nun, and it's like, but how are they going to defeat the nun when we've seen Conjuring 2 and know what happens? It's like you can.
So
when
you're
you do a
faulting the
prequel-
writer here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the prequel, they barely use the nun. They have so much other stuff going on, and the nun barely does anything. The prequel can expand on what the monster does, on like who it is or what its motivations are and what it does with the characters. But you don't do any of that. You just have the nun show up for a few more scares, and it just feels more like an extension of what the nun was, but with none of it as good as what we saw, and it's so frustrating.
It's lackluster. It's just a disappointment
There are
overall.
good movies, and it could have
I
been a
might
better
have-
movie. But
So it seems I could have liked it I could have hated it the least out of
Yeah.
everyone. I mean, I hate horror, and
Yeah.
I then went, okay, let me go look up what the rest of the Conjuring whole premise
Universe,
was. The
yeah.
universe, yes,
Yeah.
that's what many sites called it. The whole
Right, right.
universe. They have 2 different prequels going on right now,
Yeah.
and this one
the
grossed
third
enough that I
prequel.
They've
could
got
see it coming
2
back for a second.
Conjurings, The Nun,
Annabella.
2 Annabelles, and like 2 or 3 more on the way.
yeah,
Yes.
they're just going to keep making more.
But
Yeah.
I think it also could have done better besides the cheap jump out, everyone scream moments.
Yeah.
Could have also been maybe more about other creatures that were cursed by it because they kept going back to the cemetery and the bells were ringing. They could have had a little more suspense, a little more what else is going on.
Okay. In the
Instead
forest.
of-
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
if
I
it
did
had been
think
more
Frenchie-
subtle about it, it could have been
I
good.
did think Frenchie was interesting, and I guess they did a good job creating those beginning and end scenes that would tearing
the rest
into
of the
the little
Conjurings. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
revealing a little. I mean, Frenchie was interesting that way. He also had a nice, I almost felt like a Han Solo kind of way, where he comes back in the Millennium Falcon, except he comes back in a shotgun.
Okay, I could see that. He kind of like his character kind of developed a little bit. He got a little
Yeah.
That he at
backbone.
He
least-
got a minor bit of character
Right.
development, but it doesn't really add anything.
Right, right.
It's just them wandering around.
It was just like, why
fighting
couldn't it be a little
monsters.
more about him? Because he
Yeah.
had the most room to grow.
What did you guys think of Demian Bashir, the priest, Father Burke?
I thought it would have been a good character.
Yeah. Nick? Yes.
I thought it was so.
No?
I mean, the characters were kind like it was, taking out the idea that I hate horror and I was just angry that I was watching this movie. CJ's right. The characters were kind of just. It was very like, okay. And one of the bishops was in one of the other movies we watched, the one with Toni Collette and Harvey Keitel. He was the love interest for the maid. He was in
Wow. Okay.
it. Yeah, that's right. I remember
That
things.
was a good cut.
So
yeah.
obscure. I love it.
But it was like everything was just very like A to B to C to D to E. It wasn't like bouncing around at all, or it was like the beginning. Okay,
Yeah.
setting up the nun. She kills herself. Great. This French dude finds her. Ew, she's bleeding. Let's call the supernatural doctor guy, who's the French guy, who's like, I don't want to do this. And they send him with a nun who hasn't taken her vows yet, who was an American Horror Story.
Right.
Farmiga.
Yeah, she was
Vera Farmiga's sister. Actually.
She was in American Horror Story Coven, which
She's
is
been
coming
in
back.
3 different seasons, I believe.
And they go to the church, and the nun is like possessing somebody or something, and she's like, none of you can stay here. And then it was literally like, I could probably describe the whole movie to you in 10 minutes and do a pretty decent job.
Maybe 5
The
minutes.
way you're describing it is the best way too, because it's like this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It doesn't feel like this happens, so this must happen, and then the characters must do this. There's no real development. It's just the characters are kind of there.
I don't know. I would say it's more, let's form the
it's-
team. The unknown happens. Here comes the guy and the young, unsuspecting girl who's a virgin. And then the
religious
local
Ghostbusters.
outcast.
It's
And
like
it's
the set it up
let's
that way,
go
but
to the
nothing
place.
happens.
It's that spin-off movie where you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, they only made this because the other ones did well.
Yeah.
But this
They
one did
li-
better
like-
than all of them combined, I thought I read.
Did it? I think
It did.
Well,
yeah,
combined they
I
all
read
made
that
about a little over $1 billion.
Yeah, but this one had a really big opening weekend.
Yeah.
Because of the hype of the other movies. But it's
Right.
like
And
you
all the
sit there
hype
and
of
you're
all the
like,
commercials. It's on every 2 seconds if
yeah,
you watch anything.
yeah, and it's
Every channel. It seems to cross over
that's the
from.
problem with movies in general, though. There's just an oversaturation of the advertising and the promotion, and it's like when you see the movie, you feel like you know too much of what's going on already.
Right.
Like when the movie started, I was like, they're starting this off with the thing from the trailer where the thing jumps out. 'Cause that's what I thought was going to happen.
Right.
And it just felt like the movie that you make when you're made a whole universe. And you're like, all right, let's just do something to advance it, and that way we don't have 3 years between movies. We only have a year and a half.
I don't feel like
between
even
movies.
advance it. They just did more of the same, but with lesser quality. It wasn't like we're advancing.
Well, when I
what's
say
happening.
advance it, I mean like
Let's have
not have a
something in
gap.
between the next
let's
Conjuring,
not have a 3-year gap between Conjuring movies.
make this in
Let's
a year
have
and
a
a
year
half
and a
and then have
half.
something
Yeah,
else
I think they've been making one every year now since 2016.
right. That's
Yes.
And that plays to my point. Like, let's just, you know what, we have to put one out, so let's just make this. And it's like
same thing happened with Paranormal Activity.
yeah, you could have
know?
done. You really could have done more with the movie. Like
Saw.
now that I'm looking back at it, it's like it really didn't scare me as much as I thought it was going to. Just maybe jump a few times.
No.
And I mean, I did
More
see it
than a
in
few
daylight, but
times.
still would freak me out. And it just felt very formulaic. It really did.
I agree. Totally by the numbers, no originality, and it's really sad because it had potential.
Like when they set things up, it starts interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's a few things that could have been good, but it's just it
As the
felt somewhat
movie-
earned. Like they weren't challenging the characters. Like I thought, okay, they have the priest with the seemingly troubled past, and he has something to overcome or reveal, but he doesn't. He just explains what happened to him in his past, and that's it. From that point on, he's the same character. The nun that they introduced is like, oh, this is who I am, and I had visions. And then she's the same through the end of the film.
Well, you know,
Like,
And
they'll
her
probably
visions
nobody
never
advances.
change.
They'll
We
probably
don't
do some
see.
spin-off scenes, spin-off movies with these characters anyway, because they're
Yeah,
very
they
strong
can do their own
characters.
spin-off now.
Frenchie, I could definitely, because they mentioned him in
Isn't
another.
Frenchie's plot already drawn out and we know how
Well,
it's
we know
going?
he gets exercised in later movies.
Yes.
So. But I'd like to see like more of his background.
This is the issue though when you sign a deal, I guess, because they must have signed a specific amount of pictures and what they're
Most of them
doing.
go for like
right?
3 movies these days.
Oh yeah, that's how
Yeah.
they do it. Yeah.
Yeah, they sign multiple movies ahead of time, and it's
Right.
they don't. I'm assuming they don't do the vetting process. It was like, okay, we're signing you for 3 movies, but what are those 3 movies going to be?
Yeah.
It's like, listen, you made these 2 movies, they were great.
It's just business.
Let's just exactly.
It's not art
and
anymore.
it's not. It just doesn't feel like that's the way it should be done. It
Right.
feels like you should be like, all right, listen, you want to do a 3-picture deal. You got to tell me now what you plan on doing with these 3 movies beforehand.
Right.
Because, and even so, like the Conjuring, because it's part of the Conjuring universe, they'll probably all make money,
Oh yeah.
and that's what they bank on. It's like, well, you already set the precedent with the Conjuring films. Anything you do that you say is in that universe, people are going to want to
Yeah.
go see because they enjoyed the Conjuring that much.
marketing.
Except
At
if you
this
keep making
point-
bad movies, it poisons it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, not if
But the problem,
people don't
and-
think about it as one
right.
with the other.
And the problem is too, it's not, the Nun isn't going to be looked at necessarily as a flop. It's like, oh, we're all done with Conjuring movies. There's going to be 2 or 3 other movies they come out with that have to be bad for the public to actually turn around and say, maybe I'll skip this one.
More like 5. People can go through 3 separate,
Yeah.
the whole
People
franchise.
pay for these movies forever. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter what it is. If it's Star Wars,
it's just
Conjuring,
sad, like,
Marvel.
you could
And it's
do
like
a
Marvel
movie-
too. People are expecting Marvel to at some point make a flop, and they haven't yet.
Right.
And
But
that's
Marvel takes care of their
excuse me.
movies. All the movies, like, they say, what's the point of the movie? What's character progression? They have the basic things you need to be a movie. Sometimes they get a little formulaic, but every time they're like, we're making a good film so that people will enjoy. This one, they just took a character people liked of the Nun, came up with a somewhat interesting setting, but they had no point. Like, this movie had no reason to exist. It doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't reveal anything. It doesn't explore anything. It's just, hey, let's just see some jump scares for an hour and a half, and that's it.
That's
And
the
it's
state
so
of American
sad.
horror right now.
and you would
That's
think
it.
more people would actually look at what Marvel does and how their movies always mean something and are always significant, and try to copy them more.
Yeah.
No,
really
they're just
like-
like movies connected. Let's do a cinematic universe. Like, look at Universal and trying to do the Universal monsters
See,
for the Dark Cinematic Universe, and that was awful.
Well, they tried to do that with The Mummy as the first one, right?
They
But-
basically said, like,
Yeah,
we
but
have
you
these
can't-
horror characters that were a universe once. Let's do it again, but make them all
But you,
superheroes.
but you
And
can't.
it's so bad.
But
Right.
you can't throw your arms up after one attempt.
But that's what they did
That's-
because they made such a bad attempt. That's
Are
the
you
problem.
referring to Man of Steel?
Well, no, you see, the whole thing, if you want to talk about specifically DC versus Marvel, DC's never going to win, in my opinion, because Marvel had started doing it so long before them. DC really only ever had Batman. They never really tried to do anything with any other character necessarily.
Right.
And they signed a guy in Zack Snyder who's very good at making, quasi-noir films
He killed
where
it with
they're
Watchmen.
very over-dramatic.
Yeah.
Watchmen was fantastic.
Yes.
I love Watchmen.
Well, I think DC's best strength was the fact they always kept their movies not connected.
Right.
Each one started from the very beginning, and it was that story
Right.
from Watchmen to Red, the Bruce Willis thing with Morgan Freeman
Right,
and all
right,
of
right.
them.
Had good comic
Or
I think
other-
Superman
They made
Returns
movies.
could have been a great connector with
Yeah.
Batman Begins.
But the problem is they're not going to win because anything they do, if they copy Marvel word for word, oh, you're just copying Marvel, and you're not going to get the same results.
Right.
And now they tried to do the flip flop where they did team up then the individual movies.
Yeah.
And people didn't like that either. They're not going to win. They may as well just make what they want to make and do it the way they want to do it, and to heck with whatever people say about it.
Right.
Just go out and
It
try to
doesn't
make the
work
best
like that in
product
reality.
possible. I know, but to me, it's just
there's
you
too
should
much
be
ultra-
focused on making the best product possible.
But there's too much ultra saturation on the internet.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps listening to it, and everyone
Yeah.
reads each other's and reposts it. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, we have to do what the fans want, or we won't make the money.
How
Yeah.
many times are they going to have to reboot Batman and Superman to make it right? I don't know.
I think the problem is, like, the movies that worked were because they said this is what the character is and this is what it's about, and those movies work. That's like the standalone DC movies they did, like all those films got the characters right, and
Yeah.
the movies were usually good for them. Marvel movies generally know who the character that they're making the movie about is and can make a good movie that way. Whereas Man of Steel was a deconstruction
I'm
of
sorry,
Superman. It
Marvel
wasn't
had a
about
few
Superman.
bad years, though.
Oh yeah, they definitely, like, not everything hits, but
Okay, so
for
long
the
as
most
we're
part, I'm saying
agreeing.
the
About
good
2007?
They've
Marvel,
gotten back
the
on a better
best-
swing.
yeah, the best Marvel movies are where they look at who the character is and explore that, and they can get it
They
right.
they also seem to give their filmmakers sort of a box to work within, but it's a very large box.
Okay.
And I don't get that vibe off of DC. It seems like DC wants to accelerate the process and just be
Yeah.
like, listen, this has to be.
Yeah.
Well, if you're
This
going to
has to be
accelerate the
amazing.
process,
They have it all
And you're
mapped
gonna
out
do
already.
everything to make it
telling us
amazing.
the story of Bruce Wayne's parents dying.
Yeah, I think we've seen that a bit too much.
How many times does that need to be in every
They've
single
made
movie?
that at least 3 or 4 times in the last two decades, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know it. We just move on. That's why Gotham, the TV show, is so great.
But Gotham
I'm
did
not
it
a fan
too.
of Gotham.
But they didn't dwell on it too much.
Oh
you
no,
know?
the first half of the first season was all about this person could be the murderer, that person
Yeah.
could be the murderer. Jim and Bullock, Harvey Bullock is running around and he doesn't run as well. It
Right, right,
was
right.
until they finally moved into plot. But I love Gotham.
It's a great show.
I can't get into Gotham. Every time I try and watch it, like, I can't connect to it because it's a movie about all the Batman characters.
It's not a
No,
movie.
show.
It's the
It's a
show
it's a TV
about
series
all the
on
Batman
Fox.
characters,
Uh-huh.
but without Batman. And then all the villains don't have that to play off of, and they just have the villains themselves kind of doing things or different versions of them, and they're killing off the villains, so they'll never get there. Like,
No, they're not. That's the frustrating thing. They're not killing anyone.
the
Everyone-
no,
problem-
they're killing some of them, but like me, I like Black Mask from the comics. He's a
Okay.
character I really enjoy. And I watched one episode of Gotham where I'm like, this one was on TV, let me start watching it. And it's like, oh, they have this character, they drop his name. It's like, oh, that's Black Mask, that's awesome. They have him before he gets the mask, and then he gets shot in the head. I'm like, Wait, you're killing the people already?
The
Like,
problem,
what are you doing?
but that's the problem with having a 10-year-old, because that's, I believe, how old
Yeah.
David Mazouz is when he got the part.
Right, right.
So I watched a couple seasons of Gotham, and then it just fell off. I just stopped watching it.
I stopped
Gotham had
after
a-
season
Not
3.
not from anything they did. I just lost track of it.
Right.
Okay.
And
Galavan,
but that's the
less
problem
interesting.
with hiring a 10-year-old to play that part.
Well, that was
You're
the whole
not gonna-
point of the show, that it
It-
was
well,
never
yeah.
going to be about Bruce. Bruce
Yeah.
was going to stay in his mansion. I would have personally written him off the show for a year. Let him go through his journey of training
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
we expect it to be. And let it focus on the villains instead of having him constantly be back in the play.
Yeah, but at some point you have to go to your bread and butter.
It is.
At some point you have
He's
to
been
go to
getting
Batman.
a lot
now
closer.
apparently
And the
he's
fact that
Batman,
you-
where he's wearing a weird mask and a leather jacket.
Yes.
Like, whenever I see like some episodes of the show, like I started watching it early, and it's like him as young Bruce Wayne, where he's like, I need to punish the criminals of the city, and he's like staring into the fire, and it's like, oh, because he's going to be Batman. I'm like, it sounds like this kid's a serial killer. He's going to turn Dexter. Like, you can't have the 10-year-old being like, I'm going
Why?
to become the
It's
protector of the
supposed
city.
to be
do you
similar
think
to-
they're going to do the Richard Linklater route of Boyhood and
Well,
just
no,
film him
it's
over
supposed
20
to
years?
be.
Yeah.
No,
That'd be
it's
interesting,
supposed to
though.
go off the air at the end of this
Oh, is it?
year,
Yeah, it's
and
done.
also
Oh.
it's supposed to be similar to like year 1 or year 0.
But here's the thing:
or
year 1
Mask
was
of the
about him. Like, they make the main character Gordon, and the movie is, and the whole show is about Gordon trying to fight these criminals.
Right.
But we
And
know
having-
he fails.
Yes.
That's the thing. You can't
No,
have a show where
the
the
whole
premise is
show
him
is
failing.
about Jim's failing love life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's what it sounds like. Like, you have the main character is, okay, he's the person who's supposed to protect Gotham and fails miserably, and the villains rise to power. That's why I like when they said, okay, the Penguin's one of the main characters. It's like him starting small and building up. That's good. Because it's like a Breaking Bad way, where it's like the character who becomes a villain, and it's like, we can see him become
So
the top
great.
villain because we know
But
Batman
that's
will
why
stop
everyone
him.
loves
we know
Penguin
he will fail.
most. Most
Right.
critics say
Yeah.
that, and most
Whereas
fans.
Jim Gordon, it's like he's just going to progressively fail more and more until Batman shows up and saves it, and he doesn't do anything.
The show would make more sense if you had hired a 15 or
well, he
16-year-old
isn't.
actor.
That would be ridiculous
to play
if
the
he's a
role.
15-year-old and his parents get shot.
Or you
Well,
can
no,
have it
I'm
take
sa-
place
I'm
afterwards.
saying-
It
You
doesn't
wanna
have to be about
recast-
his.
So-
But I'm saying the timeline to me, my timeline on Batman has always been his parents died when he was a kid.
Right.
He eventually becomes Batman.
Like at 20.
But these villains were kind of always there. So you don't necessarily, to me, need to have him be 10 years old and watch these villains do this stuff. You could have had his parents get killed, and then had him at 16 or 17 years old,
Right.
starting to get to that age where he's all angsty and stuff, and he slowly but surely becomes Batman that way, as opposed to having the 10-year-old. Because at some point, like, and I don't think that, and their end game, let's be honest, their end game was never to bring Batman on. We all
Yes,
know
it
this.
is.
The end game is
But-
Batman will show up and then it ends.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes.
like Smallville.
Right.
Pretty much.
But that was
But
And
Smallville at
Smallville
least had
worked.
something to explore, like, because he was
Yeah.
always he always had the powers. He
Yeah.
always had this, and it's him learning what to do with the powers. Whereas it's like if it's Smallville, but the main character is Jimmy Olsen trying to investigate the criminals of Metropolis,
Yeah.
and it's like, I wish that someone would show up and save everything for me. And that's his arc. He's just keep going, gee, if only someone could do this for me, because I
Well,
really suck at
that's
this.
Alfred's job. Alfred shows up finally every time he gets into a mess and just goes, bang, it's dead. Bruce, next time don't do that. You're going to get shot
Yeah,
in the
I'm
head.
fine with watching a show about Alfred if it's a badass young Alfred
Nice.
who like
When he was in the British
protects him, yeah,
SAS.
like that would be fine.
Right.
With. Like
They'll probably
because
make that.
Then you don't watch
That
enough
could work.
Gotham
Penny-
because that
Pennyworth.
is.
they're making it.
Are they doing it?
They're making that, yeah.
I'll
That's
watch
coming
that
out.
for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey guys, so we have just a couple minutes, but yeah, I want to thank you all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything you guys want to plug? Erica?
Nothing right now.
Nothing right now. I know, working
yeah.
on it.
I made a Twitter at CJ Oakland. That's what I have. If you want anyone to be a writer, I'm very desperate.
Yes.
I will take any money. Just make me an offer, please.
Please, please. Nick Commando, not the Arnold movie.
At Nick Commando on Instagram and Twitter. Wrestling podcast about wrestling. I'm actually going to be recording something tonight with one of my co-hosts where we discuss the recent show All In and also talk about women's wrestling on the whole. So
Cool.
look
Awesome.
out for that.
That'd be
Podbean everywhere you get podcasts.
Nice. All right, so just a few words from our sponsor. Saturday, September 15th, the Women's Health Conference of Melville, Long Island. This is all for Magnitude Jewelry. You'll see a video in just 1 minute about that. But they'll be at the September 22nd and 23rd, Saturday and Sunday, Trinity Health Conference, Schaumburg Center in Chicago. Sunday, September 30th, the Over 50 Fair, that's 10 o'clock to 4 p.m., Huntington Hilton, Long Island. And Friday to Sunday, October 26th to the 28th, New Life Expo at the New Yorker Hotel in New York City. So check those events out. And now we're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, followed by an interview I did with actress Samantha Mathis of the new horror thriller Boarding School. Check it out.
Under the Radar is brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a tude to match your attitude. Patent pending interchange genuine gemstone and crystal EMF protection jewelry. For more information, please visit magnitudejewelry.com or call 718-268-6634.
Hey guys, so unfortunately we have officially run out of time, so we won't be able to air the Samantha Mathis interview, but it is up on my YouTube channel, Under the Radar, so just look for that. Again, I want to thank my guests today, Erica A., CJ Oakland, Nick Commando, and I've been your host, Randy Unger. We'll see you next time on Under the Radar. Thanks so much.
Under the Radar is all new next week at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with more movie reviews and interviews on Strong Island radio and television. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.